a little bit, as we do with all games that we beat. I will also do, once we get done with the series, I will do a retrospective of my likes, dislikes, and I'll do kind of my listing of which ones I like overall. But as we go through the series, I'll talk about each game like we do all of the games that we beat from a mechanical standpoint, from a story standpoint, and from an overall what I think and would I recommend it. Mechanical standpoint, it's very much survival horror. It is, you get weapon, you have monsters, you solve puzzles, you try to survive, and, defeat whatever atrocities are along the way. So, if you like puzzles, these games progressively, honestly, I think 2 and 3 probably have the most variance in their puzzle, if I remember correctly. I don't remember a lot of the puzzles from the later games, but we'll obviously look into that when we get there. But I know those 2 games specifically, the puzzles can be very hard if you turn them onto hard. But I do like the adjustment of the difficulty of both the combat and the puzzles, so more people can enjoy these games if they don't want to struggle their way through that. But mechanically, that's kind of it. It's just, there's monsters, there's puzzles, and there's bosses. Those are your 3 main things. So it's combat and puzzle solving and exploring, which that's what you expect from a survival horror game. Story-wise, again, I think the reason why this particular Silent Hill is getting the remake over any of the other ones is just because this story has the most to it. This is, like, there are supporting characters in other Silent Hills, but none of them are like the supporting characters in Silent Hill 2, really. Like, you have the detective in Silent Hill 3, you've got Lisa and Kaufman and I keep on calling him Claudia, but that's later on. Dahlia, like, you have those characters in the games, but you don't really get to see their story evolve like you do with Silent Hill 2. And like I said, I think that's why this game is getting the remake, right? But story, it's really good. Like, my personal grievances aside, I still think it's a fantastic story, no matter what ending you get, because each ending is a different aspect on what James's future could look like. Whether you leave with Laura, whether you leave with Maria, whether you drive your car into the lake. That one has less of a future for obvious reasons, but it touches on a lot of really touchy subjects through Angela, through Eddie, through Laura just a little bit, and especially through the story with Mary. And I think all of those are very important stories to tell, where everybody, like, it talks about that. I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this. Basically, it shows that anybody that you know could be dealing with stuff like this, and you may never know, right? You might have someone who's going through what Angela's going through. You might have someone in your life who's an Eddie, who, boy howdy, I hope nothing bad comes of that, you know? You might have someone in your life who's a James, that, they did something, maybe they were allowed to do something unspeakable, maybe they weren't allowed to do something unspeakable, and they did it, and it tears them apart, right? It's the idea that, like, most of the people that enter Silent Hill are just normal people, right? And that's the point. And that's what I think Silent Hill 2 does well from a story standpoint, is it basically shows you that these kinds of things can happen to anybody. And, it's not easy to deal with. And as Angela said, for me, it's always like this. That phrase, again, is very powerful from a trauma discussion standpoint. So, like I said, amazing story. It's definitely one of the best in the series. A lot of people argue it's the best in the series. We'll see. The whole reason I'm playing through the series again is to see, you know, what games I enjoyed, because I haven't played some of these. Like, I haven't played this game, I'll be honest, probably since 2001. Maybe a little bit later, maybe since like 2003 or something like that, but I have not played this game in a very long time. But it is a very powerful game with a very powerful story, and I think the story is very, very good. So overall, usually when I talk overall, I try to give whether I would recommend a game or not recommend a game, and then I give the caveats. I will say, Silent Hill 2, if it's not obvious with most of the Silent Hill games, there's probably only going to be one that I don't recommend, and it should be obvious even before we play it. But Silent Hill 2 definitely gets a recommend from me. I think my only thing is, it's not really a caveat to it, but just with any of these horror games, and I mention this a lot when we play horror games, whenever you're playing a horror game, just be ready for it to kind of hit you in your emotions and maybe dig up some stuff from maybe your own past or your own experiences, because that stuff can really hit home when you're not expecting it, right? It can be very powerful. But I do recommend this game. Now, I will say, this game, this specific copy, PlayStation 2, just basic copy, this game is $140 physical. If you are collecting or whatever and you have the disposable income, go for it. I would recommend emulation for basically most of the series, just because these games are super expensive to get physical copies of. Most of these games I've had physical copies of since they came out. That's why I have these. There's very few of them that I bought after the fact. So if you have the money and you want to do physical, great. If you don't, I still recommend emulation. I think it's worth playing through. There's a lot of good things, and that happens in horror media in general. I had a mini panic attack because Sinister 2. Yeah, Sinister 2. Yep, exactly. That's why I love horror. Shakes out the emotional cobwebs. That's a good way of putting it, yeah. But overall, I do recommend it. If you get your hands on it, definitely give it a go, and maybe wait for the remake. If you and see how that goes, because if the remake does well enough, if it looks good enough, maybe that's your ticket into playing this game. But we'll see. Like I said, they've got some big shoes to fill, but I'm gonna stay positive about it. I think they can handle it. I really do. So we'll see where it goes from there. But if you're watching this over on YouTube, thank you so much. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all of that stuff on YouTube, so that way we can push these videos out to even more lovely people. And I will see you in the next one.